"Hey, you loser!" He heard Ethan behind him, and immediately he felt someone tapping him between the shoulder blades rather tangibly on the back. Ethan turned around. The first thing he saw was the smug smile on the face of his eternal bully, classmate William. He stood behind Ethan, slightly out of breath, smiling. It was clear that William had run up behind him and slapped Ethan on the back for no reason, because he knew that he would be walking home this way, and William wouldn't miss a chance to make fun of the strange kid. All their classmates were gathering behind the school gym, talking about girls and yesterday's soccer game. But this one, avoiding their company, kept rushing home. It was said that he had a sick mother who had not gotten out of bed for a year. She needed constant care. She had no one to rely on but Ethan. His father worked from morning till night as a common laborer in a car service center, earning money for his wife's expensive treatment. Ethan had had to do all the housework since she was little. Laundry, cleaning, and cooking were commonplace for him. He'd also had time to study well, which was not at all fashionable among teenagers. So when Ethan's stairwell neighbor, the frail and snide Mason, told the kids behind the school gym what Ethan did at home, they laughed at him. "So he's getting ready to be a housewife," William muttered with a smile. His opinion was considered authoritative. William's father and mother worked quite successfully abroad and provided their beloved son with stylish clothes and expensive equipment. Why didn't anyone tell him he didn't have to study for it? They even take people like him, William continued, and the company laughed approvingly. From that day on, William never missed an opportunity to make fun of Ethan, to ridicule him for his old clothes, and call him a ragamuffin. There were times when he and his friends would wait for one of the girls to come along so that Ethan would be hurt more, shouting "maid, babysitter" in his wake. What annoyed William the most was Ethan's calmness. For all his attacks, the boy kept his dignity. Looking over his abuser's head, he seemed to hear nothing. Only once did Ethan snap. It happened when William came close to Ethan, grabbed the button of an old shirt, and yanked with all his might. There was a cracking sound. The button and a piece of cloth remained in William's hand. He seemed confused at first, but then he smirked at the boys who were waiting to see how it would end, and threw the torn piece in Ethan's face with the words, "Come on, sew it on. You're a future seamstress." "Oh no, I forgot you're going to follow in your father's footsteps, working day and night in a low-rent car service. You'll be a loser and a loser like him for the rest of your life. Well, to each his own." And then the always poised Ethan grabbed William by the chest, which he didn't expect at all. "I'm not a loser, and I'm not a loser, okay? And neither is my father. He works so that I can achieve everything in life, because I deserve it, unlike you. And if you ever say anything about him again—" "That, what?" asked William with challenge. He heard his company, talking quietly among themselves, coming up behind him. "You'll find out later," Ethan answered almost calmly, let go of William, and went on his way in silence. Then William was stopped by his classmates, who told him that Ethan had done well, not being afraid to stand alone against all. And William had since then harbored a grudge against his classmate for his humiliation. And if before this incident he had been doing him harm without any anger, from nothing to do, now he began to do it purposefully, thinking over his every move. One day, after trashing the school's chemistry lab, William tried to incriminate Ethan by saying he saw him going in after school. The only thing that saved the boy from punishment was that Olivia, a classmate of theirs, the pride and beauty of the school, had seen him in the drugstore at that moment. Of course, everyone believed Olivia, and William was furious. Well, what luck for this lowlife once again. Many years had passed since then, and all the guys had gone their separate ways after their high school graduation. And now, finally, they decided to get together. And in the age of social networking, it was not so difficult to find everyone. Olivia, the accountant-in-chief of one of her hometown's thriving firms, was the one to do it. She has made quite a successful career. However, on the personal front of it did not work out. It must be impossible to combine success at work and family life. But Olivia wasn't discouraged. Active and active, she tracked down almost all of her classmates. One of the last she found was William. And so, on the eve of the reunion, William drove his luxury car into the car wash. He hadn't had to stop at this particular one before. And then it turned out that one of the car washes of the advertised chain is near his work. William got out of the car, and with the imposing gait of a master of life, headed for the guy who takes orders. And then he recognized his classmate Ethan in him. A snide grin appeared on William's face. Well, justice had finally been served. The arrogant bastard had been given his due. He, William, is driving the cool car, and Ethan as a servant as expected. "What a meeting," said William with feigned goodwill. "Well, hello, dear. I see you haven't wasted any time. Did you carry on with the family trade after all?" grinned William smugly. "Hello, William," Ethan said quietly, "and you still have no respect for people and their work. That shows your self-respect issues." And he went about his work just as nonchalantly. What was the matter with William here? It was Ethan's cold nonchalance, the same as in his school days, that finally pissed him off. He blushed, but then remembered the reunion tomorrow. An idea struck him. William took his phone out of his pocket and began filming Ethan washing his car while commenting. "So, honor student, how does it feel to work at the car wash? Did your school knowledge come in handy? Your father spent his whole life working in a car service, and you're washing cars. Was it worth studying so hard? Remember how we used to make fun of you in high school for following in your father's footsteps? And you used to yell that it wasn't your thing, and you were better than that. But in the end, it turned out, like I said, to each his own. That's funny. You're ridiculous, you hear me." Ethan finished his work and glanced indifferently at his former classmate and went inside. "Poor bastard, take some tea money. At least you'll have a drink on me for once," William said. William tossed and turned from side to side all night, unable to sleep. He was already imagining the car wash video he was going to show everyone at tomorrow's event. How Mason would laugh stupidly, how his school buddies would pat William on the shoulder in approval, and how Olivia would finally smile at him. William had been in love with her since childhood, but the unapproachable girl politely refused all his advances. At a reunion at the best restaurant in town, almost everyone showed up. The girls in beautiful dresses and fancy hairdos. The mature guys recognized one another, chatted, joked, and laughed. Everywhere you could hear, "Remember that." And then there was, "What about you? Where are you now? Married?" When he chose a moment when Olivia was beside him, William said, "Ooh, I almost forgot. Want to laugh? I stopped by the car wash yesterday, and guess who I ran into there? Our Ethan. Well, you remember that lame-ass guy always shying away from us, acting like he was something. But life showed us who he was. That's probably why he didn't come here. It's a shame he never got anywhere. What am I saying and what am I saying? Here, see for yourself." And William turned on the tape. Everyone got quiet and started watching. Here it was, William's moment of glory. He felt like a hero, like a winner, exposing a worthless loser, especially since so many actually laughed. Someone made caustic comments. The only pity was that Olivia somehow didn't pay attention to the video. Or maybe she just pretended she wasn't interested. What a huge surprise for everyone was the appearance of Ethan in the middle of the evening. To say that it made an indelible impression on the audience is not to say anything. He arrived in a fancy car and dressed in a stylish and expensive way. He was wearing an elite Swiss watch and was very dapper. Immediately everyone ran to him and began to ask what he does. The girls began to dress up. Of course, such a prominent man. The most attentive ones noticed at once the absence of a wedding ring on his hand. William was somehow forgotten. He was at first confused, but then he pulled himself together and just smirked enigmatically at the table. Ethan, on the other hand, behaved as modestly and discreetly as possible. And when asked about his occupation, He answered evasively that he was a car washer. When Ethan saw Olivia, he was obviously delighted, and they talked with her about everything in the world for the rest of the evening. When everyone began to disperse, Ethan and Olivia drove off together in his car. After that, the remaining men again began discussing what Ethan was really up to. Some suggested that it was probably a joke. In fact, of course, he doesn't really work as a car washer, just the guys, William and Ethan, decided to play on the honest company by creating an intrigue. Now that's what I call an entertainment program. William, how did you even think of that? Pronounced Mason. You're naive, of course. Don't any of you realize that this is all a cheap spectacle? It doesn't take much intelligence to rent a car and expensive things, and you fell for it, said William, getting up from the table and staggering toward the exit. It's been a week since the reunion of the classmates. And then again, the car William drove into the same car wash. Only a completely different person gets out of it. He gives the keys to the washerman. And then an interesting scene unfolds. A panting William runs up to him and starts making excuses. Sorry I'm late. Michael, my fault. It's all because of public transportation, such a line in the mornings. What are you, William, getting cocky? Me, what? I have to wait for my driver in the morning, and then have to take my car to the car wash myself. Do you have any idea how much 10 minutes of my time costs? I told you one more stunt like this and I'll fire you. I won't look at what your father asked for you, friend. Take your son to work. He can't find a job after prison. Don't let the boy go to waste. William blushed and only nodded guiltily in response. Ethan was watching the whole thing through the cameras from his office. He had just arrived to check on one of his car washes. He was about to leave in time to buy a bouquet and meet Olivia at one of the cafes downtown. Ethan went downstairs and met William. What had become of him? It seemed like a little while longer and William would just fall. He was ready to fall to the ground. It was the most embarrassing thing he had ever experienced. Are you deaf? He heard Michael's voice as if through absorbent cotton. I said, get to the office any way you want. I'm on my way, and when you get there, come up to me. I'll decide what to do with you, and slammed the car door. The car drove away. William remained standing in the middle of the car wash. Ethan came up to him, wanting to tell him that the last time he came out to say hello before the reunion too, but he felt too much rudeness on William's part. I decided to play along with him, pretending to be a car wash attendant instead of a car wash owner. It was a good thing I was in overalls at the time, checking out the quality and comfort of the uniform. But Ethan doesn't have time to tell it. What, are you here to gloat? Said William angrily. You think you've got it all now? But you know, no matter how much money a man has, you can't change what's inside. You know, school's been good for me after all. Math, economics, and a lot of other things helped me start a business. And a successful one at that. Now I own a chain of car services and car washes. And yes, I followed in my father's footsteps, and I'm proud of it. And you never got to realize your talent. Although you could have been a great comedian, or at least a circus clown, or maybe a storyteller, you always had a good tongue and a good imagination. I had other talents, to each his own. Ethan turned and walked toward the exit. Then he suddenly stopped and looked at the downcast William and said, I really feel sorry for you. You know, if your boss fires you today, come see me. I'll get you a job at my place. It's never too late to start over. Late to start over. Late to